Years ago in Costa Rica, I took a long bus ride to a small town where I had to get by on my beginner Spanish because it wasn't the kind of place the tourists go. They were having a rodeo, and people who couldn't afford the price of a seat crowded in under the bleachers to watch through the gaps in the wood slats that had been thrown together in the preceding days to make a temporary arena. Gosh, I thought, they'd never let you do that in the US. Fire marshal would throw the book at you. Later, when the first few men jumped into the ring, I assumed they were mounting a rescue. But it wasn't about rescuing anybody. With the release of every furious bull, dozens of men, always men, never women, would jump down to taunt and tease them. Some were gored and trampled, although none too severely to walk away. When that happened, they made a point of pumping a fist to the crowd as they limped back to the stands, in case any doubt of their exceptional machismo remained. It was the custom. And that's when I said, of course, you can't sue anybody here. Assumed risk is the whole of the law. That's what I was thinking about as I hung out the open doors of a speeding train, taking in the sights and the warm, fragrant air of the Indian countryside. I thought, they'd never let you do this in a million years in America. And I considered all the rare pleasures we miss out on in order to keep our overproduced elites employed writing and enforcing rules that nobody asked for.
Hello, dissidents. What I like when you get outside of America is you have a concept called assumed risk. So, for example, in America, they would never just kind of leave the doors hanging open on a speeding train and leave it up to you whether you want to just hang out and take the risk. But in India, you can do this, right? Right.
The further out you go, the more of a novelty you become. There were people who had never seen a white person curiously observing us. Some of them would shyly approach and gesture for a selfie. I asked Bhupesh how they could never have seen a European with tourists passing through semi-regularly. He explained they were villagers making a once-in-a-lifetime journey to the holy cities. Many had never been away from home. Here and there, desiccated barefoot figures, both male and female, appeared next to the tracks, sometimes working, sometimes squatting in the dirt or laying down. I spent a long time watching 4 people carry a whole tree across a field, wondering why they were doing it, and trying to imagine as best I could living the kind of life where your day might take that kind of a turn. Hey, wake up! We have a tree to carry. But the whole scene was so opaque to me and so far removed from my experience, I might as well have tried to deduce the whys and wherefores of a beam of light. We arrived at Jaisalmer in the middle of the night and waited by the side of the tracks while Bhupesh negotiated for a fleet of motorized rickshaws. As we approached the ancient fort rising out of the dirty town that had grown up around it, he told us we were staying there. I laughed, assuming he was joking. Then we rode through the gates.
Hey, you aren't kidding. We are going into the fort. All right, so this is a good time. So somebody suggested that because my name is Russell, I need to be afraid of the Russell Viper.
Jackasses, all of them.
So why is that? Why do I not need to fear the Russell Viper?
Because snakes are in hibernation at the moment. It's winters, and they come out only during the summers, which is from May onwards.
In the manner of Calvino's Invisible Cities, whose verses came to me often throughout the trip, what can I tell you about Jaisalmer? Can I tell you that its fort is carved from gentle sandstone? Or that ancient cannonballs still rest atop some of its 99 parapets? That once you've passed its 4 gates, you'll find yourself inside an open market square where during the daytime, merchants, fruit sellers, currency traders, and sitar players all vie for the rupees of the tourists as they come and go from their hotels? Or that the fort has been standing with later additions since 1156, and that its founding family ruled here until independence in 1947? Or that it was a main hub of the camel caravan routes for centuries, with its strategic position at the edge of the desert, and that it has become relevant again in recent times, with the Pakistani border only 100 miles away? Or that all its winding lanes lead to a mystery and a wonder? This temple, this cannon, this view, these carvings, the whole place is like a dream, beautiful and unreal. Sipping chai in the morning at one of the many cafes built into the towers with a full desert view, it's easy to imagine what it must have been like to watch a line of merchants come over the horizon, weighed down with spices and silks. Our hotel had been a barracks, and it had the feel of a place that was thrown together with whatever came to hand. Simple steps, worn floors, rusty locks. It still had a wood-burning stove heating the water in the rooms. In the mornings, the birds would kick up a racket, cooing and scratching at the timbers. I'd throw open the medieval window carved into the wall and look out over the rooftops. That first sunrise, I climbed up to the cafe and took pictures, eagerly anticipating my first Western-style breakfast in several days. On the train, we ate like Indians, there not being enough Europeans traveling these routes for anyone to bother making the kind of syrupy, sweet, sticky, salty combos we prefer. As an American victim of Edward Bernays' successful campaign to sell the farm breakfast to an urbanized nation of office workers who have been dying of the results ever since, this was particularly hard on me, and I was desperate for a cup of joe and an omelet, preferably with a big stack of pancakes. I must make a confession. It had honestly never occurred to me that the whole idea of having a distinct type of food at different times of the day was not a universal concept. I assumed that Indian breakfasts would be milder than Indian dinners. They are not. By the third day, I could almost feel my stomach lining dissolve. After breakfast, Bhupesh took us on a tour of the main sites. The Ukraine war was less than a year old then, so naturally I clowned on the Indian fondness for putting swastikas everywhere.
It's like I've been saying, the Ukrainians are not Nazis, they're mystics.
It's this kind of thing, along with my need for coffee and pancakes, that made me such a joy to my companions. In my defense, I'm an excellent tipper. The way I see it, if you're going to be an asshole, the least you can do is pay extra. We worked our way up to the top of the fort, passing the many free-roaming cows, along with the dogs who were even friendlier than in Delhi, and the havelis, or mansions, with their intricate hand-carved scrollwork covering the walls, pediments, and doorways, now mostly converted to hotels and museums. To paraphrase Captain Willard, The whole scene really put the zap on my head. At the highest point, a crowd gathered for selfies and the view. Outside the walls in the town, there were even more cows eating from the trash and lazing about. They're mellow, but you do have to be careful around them. They can throw their heads unpredictably, usually to scatter the flies, and those horns aren't for show. Bupesh got stuck at one point, but it didn't break the skin. Occasionally, you'll find yourself having to negotiate a narrow alley with a cow on one side, a motorcycle on the other, and you in between. That's when you just have to kiss it up to God, as my Catholic friends growing up used to say, and hope that you don't get gored or run over trying to get to the other side. There was a bang shop, but I didn't sample their wares. Getting high here seemed like a good way to end up starring in an episode of Locked Up Abroad. And besides, it was likely to be one of those paranoid Peter Fonda kind of trips where you wake up naked in a cemetery. On the second day, we rode out to the desert for a ride on a camel train and a night out under the stars.
My camel's name is Johnny Walker. Hopefully he's not a drunk.
Buffalo soldier, bad luck to India. Rajasthan to bye.
There are a lot of Bob Marley fans in this town.
Yeah.